Hi everyone, so on today's video I'll be going through a quick tutorial on the Autocad interface. So for those of you just starting out, first time using Autocad, wanted to introduce you to how to navigate the program, and should be pretty standard across the various versions, so this should be applicable. Just know that some of the interface kind of panels might change a little bit. So right now I'm looking at Autocad LT 2022, and to kind of start you can go to File, click on the Autocad icon, New, and then there's some very basic Autocad templates that you can use. ISO is metric versus ACAD LT, that's just the standard imperial format. If you open that, and then if you type in, say, units, you can see that again, this is the default imperial template, but just want to introduce you to a couple concepts first. On the top here is what we call the ribbon. So if you want to use various commands in AutoCAD, you can always click on these buttons and then it triggers a given command. So I clicked on the line button here, and then I can start drawing lines and whatnot, right? So that's one thing. You can also use what's called the command line down here. So rather than clicking these buttons, you can type in line and then hit enter, and then it can follow the instructions. So it says specify the first point, and then you can kind of just click on your way. So most beginners probably start with the ribbon, and then as you get more advanced and you kind of learn the commands, I would say you generally just type them in. You might even develop shortcuts. So that's how you can get faster and faster at using the program. So on the top left here are various commands. Line is just a regular line with various segments depending on how many points you click. Polyline essentially connects all those points together into a singular curve. So I can show you what that looks like later. There's various commands like here, move, copy, mirror. We can go into that in a future video. And then there's kind of dimensionings and annotations. So that's if you're kind of adding labels and whatnot to your drawing. Next we have the layers panel. Rather than drawing all in the white in one layer, you might want to separate them into various layers, so that can allow you to hide, delete, kind of control your drawing a little bit further. And then properties, you can change your line types, you can change your line widths so that they can print in different thicknesses. You can even change the colors. So that's just like the general interface. And there's also different tabs here. So that's the home panel that kind of has various modeling, drawing commands. And then there's insert, so this is if you're adding different files into your AutoCAD drawing. And then there's annotate, so when you're adding labels, dimensioning, that kind of thing, you'll go into the annotate tab. Views, I don't actually touch this too much. Manage, that's some later thing. Output is in terms of like printing. So I'd say generally if you're using the ribbon, you're probably mostly working in the first three tabs: home, insert, annotate, maybe in the view command, but again, you can always type in various commands to get into those places. The next thing I want to talk about is model space versus paper space. So generally when you're drawing things in AutoCAD, you're in model space. So if you picture a 3D modeling program, this is where you're like actually modeling it. And then out of that, you can produce various types of drawings. So that's where you kind of develop and go into paper space. So the default paper space, they call it layout 1, layout 2. So essentially in model space, you always want to model 1-to-1, right? Don't do any scaling there. Do the scaling in your paper space. This is where you can set up the page size. You can set up what scale that you're going to print at. So is that 1-to-100, 1-to-200, or if you're an imperial, maybe it's like a 1/4 inch scale, that kind of thing. But that way you have to do less math, right? If you're always modeling at full scale, then the only place you should be scaling is in paper space. So know that. In terms of modifying things in paper space, you can right click, go to Page Setup Manager, printer, modify, and here you can choose your printer. Typically I'll go Adobe PDF, and then choose your paper size. Letters default, but sometimes you want 11 by 17, tabloid, kind of typical size you find in a regular printer. And then generally, again, here you want to make sure your units matches the units of your file, right? So if I was in inches, I want to make sure my inches are 1:1, right? If you're in millimeters, you want to make sure your millimeters are 1:1. This is actually one of the most common mistakes for why you have scaling issues. So always make sure that your units are in the you're using the proper units in the file, and then you're setting that 1:1. So you hit OK. You can here have your plot styles, so you can set different colors that print a certain weight or color. But you can have that set for yourself. And then this is the viewport. Generally, you want to make sure that that is on the page, or if you don't want the border to print, then you can have it off the page. And then here on the right hand, you can choose what scale you want to print at. So for imperial, you can choose, say, 1/4 inch scale, and then it will print accordingly. So that's how you kind of get that set up. You can rename this to, 11 by 17 paper, or whatever you want to call it. And then let's say I want to draw a line, a shape. Then I can see that that's what it looks like at the 1/4 inch scale, right? Going into paper space. I can zoom in, right? Make it a bigger scale. That's 1 inch equals a foot, so maybe that's a better scale. Again, depending on what you're looking at. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, command line, this is where you can type different commands. We can go into that in a future video. What are some basic commands that you can use? Otherwise, use the ribbon. You can kind of click on these buttons, and then you can use the command there. Oftentimes, there isn't a button per se, so that's why we end up using the command line. So if you learn more advanced tools, then you don't worry about where it is in the ribbon. Also, as the versions change, sometimes the ribbon changes, and then that can be a challenge trying to find and navigate where those buttons are. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And if you like this video, want to learn more about various architecture tools, design, and real estate development, some of the projects that we have going on, make sure that you subscribe for our future videos. Thanks.